you guys gonna drive tonight?
No, we're staying
Good.
and then drive tomorrow.
Are going to Portland tomorrow?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then Ashland. And then Bay Area, we'll make it down.
Wow.
Okay, let's go ahead and start with the lower body. So in our manual, we're going to turn to the back and look on page 196. So that's where lower body begins. Okay, so we're just going to keep that marked so we can easily reference it. And we've gone over core and abdomen, so let's go ahead and just focus on the lower back in the Chillaxin sequence and really feel how we can incorporate some of like the seated pigeon that we did and work on child's pose and swagger. So same poses that we've done before, but with this new focus. So every time we add a new focus to the pose, it just feels different.
Yeah.
And then the lower body summary pages start on page 129. So we have two references. We have the body pages and then we have the outline. Okay. Let's go ahead and get into the swing. So from our sumo squat, well, let's just go over the upright position since we're here. And just feel like how sumo squat and all of our lunges are going to help traction the spine out of the pelvis to create space for the vertebrae. So let's just add hips, lower back, psoas, it's core. Let's just add all of this into like one practice so we have something to focus on. Because even if somebody comes in with lower back pain, we have to work on hips and legs because that's usually where it's emanating from. So from our sumo squat, we're obviously keeping the upper body engaged, but the lower body, what we're doing is creating a little bit of space for the SI joint and for the vertebrae to start to release. So all the pressure on the discs starts to open up just from the upright postures. We're going to get into our inversions and do our hanging by the hips and the waist, but let's go ahead and just feel, just even in the simple pose, just getting into sumo squat and rocking will really help the lower back. The forward folds and headstand, like we worked on earlier today, is also fantastic for the lower back, particularly for spreading the sacrum, because when the knees are together, we're actually spreading the sacrum, where when the knees are open, we're opening up the hip flexor. So two different versions, the front and the back have to be worked together. Let's go ahead and come into our weeping willow posture. Use our Chillaxin arms in a supported back bend and just sway from side to side for a moment. So from here, which is working the upper thoracic spine, what I like to do is come to center, push my forearms in, drop my hips, and roll my toes back. So I pull back, and I just wiggle from side to side, and now you can feel the lower back starting to open. Really gentle, and sometimes I'll press up and then lower again and do a few undulations like this. Lots of undulating with the spine, just like we do with the cat's meow. And our chill flow, really helpful for the lower back. And then what we're gonna do is lift the left knee up, step, and roll onto the outer edge of the right. So bottom toes flex back, okay? And then we're gonna twist. All the twists are gonna open up the rib cage, the lower back, the waist, the digestion. All of this is amazing for the lower body. Yeah, and then of course the trunk, we'll call it like the whole torso here, the trunk. I love these poses. So come on in, come on back to center, flex both feet back, roll from side to side, and then onto the outer edge of the left, the right foot steps up at a right angle. That's it, you got it. So we're reviewing one in our basic training. And so lunges, twists, circles side to side, supported back bends. So what we do when we're releasing the lower back is we initiate all of our arching from the upper thoracic spine so the lower back gets to stay long. And we're not crunching the lumbar or the cervical spine. We're letting the thoracic spine lead the way, and we bend at the hip flexors. So we're really rearranging how we move in the body, particularly our posture. So this is really amazing. The other pose I like to do from here, make sure the swing is nice and low on the back after all of that hanging. We're going to step the right foot back into a lunge. Now when we come into our lunges, so right foot back into the lunge. Let's stay on the same side. Tuck the toes under. Yeah, just go the full length of your mat and you'll be perfect. There you go. So we're going to pull the knees in towards the center line. So pull the knee in. So don't move your foot, just pull your knee in so it's stacked. This right knee needs to come in. So you're like this, just pull the knee in. Yeah, you don't have to move the back foot. that make sense? We don't want it flaring out because that's going to pinch in the joint. We want to stack as much as possible. Cool. So we're going to look for the alignment in people's bodies. And some people have a hip off or a shoulder off. So all the asymmetry will get rebalanced just by gravity pulling us straight down as long as we stack. Right? So your feet need to be hip distance. So pull the left foot back over. Pull the right foot back. And then just pull the knee in. Yes, like that. There, that's what I was talking about. There you go. So we pull everything towards the center line. So pull up and in. Pull up and in. Okay. Yeah. Cool. And then let yourself spread out, feel the difference. And then pull up and in with your lower body. I'm just using my hands to get your lower body to do what I wanted to do. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So you'll feel it when the knee goes like flaring out, and you'll feel it when you pull it in. There it is. All right. So once we get that aligned, then we're going to open up the quad and the psoas, and this will all release the lower back. So arching and opening through the heart obviously is giving our back bend to the thoracic, and then the lower back is getting nice and long, and the front of the quad and psoas is getting stretched here. Keep your supported back bend. Just bring that right foot forward. Press into straight legs. Sway a little from side to side. So we stay in our supported back bend, and we can switch sides. So let's see if we can line it up. Now that we kind of know how to stack, we're going to shoot that foot back. That's it. That's the difference. We did it automatically. And then we're going to bend the knee, keep arching and opening, and then you'll feel this amazing stretch on the front of the body. Isn't that amazing? So deep. So this is really helpful for opening up hips, lower back pain, anything having to do with the glutes, the SI joint. Also good for digestion, all of that stuff. We can also come into our forward lunges, use our forearm press, and come straight up and down. Yeah, there you go, lift and lower. Good, lift and lower. Beautiful. So this will strengthen the legs as well as open up the front of the spine. Okay, so we can do all kinds of lunges from there. Let's go ahead and come back into our reaping willow pose, reset, take a moment to feel those shifts and changes, and then we're going to bend the knees. We can come into our chillaxin from here. Let's focus on the lower body. Really good. Leg loops at the knees. Okay, fantastic. From chillaxin, notice that if we push our hips down, open our heart, relax our head back, we're already getting a nice stretch. Right? For the lower body, I like to sway from side to side and just feel what's opening up for the waist, for all the connective tissue, even all the way up into the rib cage and armpits. So we're going to use our momentum to get the right foot on top of the left for a seated pigeon. We can do floating pigeon or seated pigeon for the hips and lower back. As you can immediately tell, this part of the body is opening up. And then I like to come into a twist here. So I always hug the swing. My left hand is going to slide up my right leg to the leg loop. And then I can twist. And this is going to allow me to go a little bit deeper into the pose. So when we do the therapeutics, we hang out and let the stretch happen. So the more comfortable we are, the longer we can stay here. That is the key. And then we did a little bit of leg extension yesterday in our practice. So if we extend that leg, then we're actually working all the way into the IT band. And then that, of course, will access the hamstring as well. So the more that we add a twist, the more we're bringing out the spine. Really amazing therapeutics here. And then we're going to just unfurl to come to second side, to even it out. Put the sides together. Left foot on top. First we hang out in chillaxin arms. Get your swing nice and low so your underarms can get a break. There you go. Sometimes I'll wag the tail so that bottom foot will explore in the space. Both knees are bent. There you go. And this will also add a different component to the stretch just by swinging from side to side. Can you feel how that opens up like a whole nother level? It's amazing. So really easy, so that way we can stay for like 5-10 minutes in these poses that would be maybe too uncomfortable to hold for that long. But if we add a little swing, a little swag, then we can usually hang out there. Okay, so let's add a twist. We're going to reach our right hand for our left foot and slide up to the leg loop. And once we get as high, reach up just a little bit higher so you can pull. There you go. That's it. So the knee kind of comes in, our rib cage twists open, I relax my head and just hang. Yeah. So a lot of these restorative poses can actually be very yin, very slow and calming. We can make them more dynamic and active, but I also like to just bring as much weight into the lower body as possible. And I do these poses all the time on my own, like at home. Yeah, this is how I watch TV. I watch TV. So we're going to extend that leg. Okay. If we wanted to make it more dynamic, we're going to press into the leg loop and twist with a T. So that's the more dynamic version, right? If that's too much, Chillaxin arms is the yin side of the equation. Good. Both are good. You really just want to encourage them. This is a tough part for people to open. So dropping the hips, extending the leg, it's a big stretch. So make it as easy on them as possible. And then let's kind of come on out, come back into our swagger, give a little hop, give the underarms a break. And then we're going to review our chill flow and focus on the lower back. Again, everything is familiar now, so reviewing the poses over and over again, this gives us a better idea of how to use them for our specific clients. I'll twist it back here. There we go. That happens. It's just eating my shirt. Okay, so child's pose. So child's pose is my #1 favorite pose for opening up the lower back. Really easy. You just hang out in the swing, curl up into a ball, bow in, and lengthen through the heart. Lengthen through the kidneys and the low back. Beautiful. Blossom open for star. Squeeze into Namaste. And then come into Ladle. So in Ladle, we're using the swing at the lower back to create a spacing, right? So from Ladle, we can reach back and grab and hold on to the ankles for a bow pose. So even here, even though we're opening up the chest, we're focusing on the lower back being long. And then we're going to release from holding onto our ankles, reach up, grab for the spring, bring your legs wide and around to transition to our inversion. So it's pretty easy to get into our peaceful warrior from here. So bring the legs wide and around, tailbone towards the sky, hook the feet. There you go. Bottoms of the feet together. Perfect. Awesome. So clasp the elbows and hang for the peaceful warrior pose. And just feel what's happening in the lower back. Again, we're tractioning the spine out of the pelvis to create space for the vertebrae, lengthening all the way up into the crown of the head. The arm variations are really helpful here, so I like interlacing my fingers behind the back of the neck, pulling down gently to open up the cervical spine. Beautiful. I also like pressing my hands into my upper thighs, straightening my arms so that I can lengthen the lower back. So that's a really good stretch. I like this one a lot. And then the last one is arms up overhead, like we're coming into an upside down dog. Shoulder distance, press the chest back towards the door and stretch it out. So then we get a supported back bend and inversion. This pose, great for opening up the belly. So to come out of it, we're going to reach up, do a sit-up. Right? We do all of our core activation from here. Reach up and grab for the swing. Bring the legs wide, and then slowly lift the head and drop the hips. So you're working with the pivot point, right? So head up, hips down, and we roll back down. and we land it in Chillaxin. So that's how we can add an inversion on from our Chillaxin pose into our practice. When people are ready, usually it's like skip bow and go right into an inversion. So either bow or the inversion, depending on what they're looking for. Bow is great for upper body, inversion is great for the whole body, but particularly lower body. Fantastic. Okay, great. So let's go ahead and swagger from side to side. Hold it with a freeze frame and just notice what that feels like to kind of come into a little twist at the edges here. It's also one of my favorites. And then we can repeat all of those poses. When the leg loops are at the ankles for a floating Buddha, it's actually a little bit harder, right? When we move away from the center line of the body, this is the center line. So easiest would be at the hip flexors, medium would be knees, hardest is at the ankles. So we can do all of our floating pigeon poses here. Right? Opening up both sides, all of the leg stretches that we did yesterday, incorporate those in. We can open up our lower back for flying monkey as well as the upper body. So this feels really good as long as we're pressing the feet together and opening the knees wide. We're really releasing the hips. And then coming into our flow. We did this yesterday one more time. Wide straddle T to star. Come into Namaste. And then from ladle, we're going to wrap our legs wide and around and come into our peaceful warrior. Yeah. So sometimes a little bit easier to come into peaceful warrior from our Chillaxin. If we're already in our floating Buddha flow, then we can just lean back from ladle and wrap our legs around. We have to change planes and work on the pivot points of pushing the tailbone up towards the sky so the crown of the head can be directly vertical towards the floor. So to come out of it, we reach up, we grab for our leg loops in between. Bring your legs wide and around. So if the leg loops are still on. So wide and around. So staying in sumo squat, we're going to take a little break and change it up from here. Do you have any questions? That's all really clear? Can you feel your lower back? Does that feel good?
Yes.